Hi, Dawn Lewis here. Welcome to your next stop on this Save the Crafty YouTuber Video Hop. I am going to show you today how you can take one paper pad and make 66 cards from it. This Down by the Shore paper pad has, I think 36 pages, so it will make 66 cards. But if your paper pad only has 24, you will still get 44 cards out of it, and that is impressive. I'm working with Australian A4 cardstock today, but I will talk about card bases along the way. This is step one. Step one, we need to prep our card bases. So I take a full sheet, cut it in half. Doesn't matter if you're using Australian A4 or American letter size. Step two, I'm going to score down the center. I use my trimmer to do this. I don't need a scoreboard, so I'm just using my bone folder and running it down in the track. Step three, I'm going to fold all of the cardstock in half and reinforce those folds to get a nice crisp fold on my card bases. Step four, choose your pattern papers. Try to choose some that are different. You want to have some with large designs, small designs, solid designs, spot stripes. Mix it up a little bit, darks, lights, and get some great contrast on your cards. So these are the 6 sheets that we'll be using today, and this is my plan. I did do a test run. It worked really nicely. On the left are the instructions for how to cut each piece of pattern paper. On the right are the cards. So we'll start with the first one. I'm using my Tim Holtz Guillotine today, the 8.5 inch. And on the template, you will find numbers. Every single piece is numbered, and that corresponds to which card base you put it into. So that big piece that I cut from here, that goes into card number 1, and so on and so forth. Now I've got mine in a stack and I'm counting them as I go, but if you have a large work surface like a table or a bench, you could just lay them out 1 through 11, and then it's much easier to keep track. And if you love this technique, why don't you grab some post-it notes that you can use over and over again and apply them to the front of your card bases, and then you can just keep using them and put things in without running through like I am and counting each of the card bases. Some of these 6x6 sheets have a lot of pieces that they're cut down to. Some have a few. I will also be adding some black cardstock just here and there when I think it needs it. There's a few cards I think that need it. But before we look at that, let's talk about the difference between the American standard card base, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. We all know it. But when you chop a piece of Australian A4 cardstock in half and then use it as a card base, it is actually 4 1/8 by 5 13/16. So it is a fraction narrower and a fraction longer, which means that A2 cover dies, they just don't cover it. You can trim your card bases down, and that's how you can achieve that, and you don't waste too much. But it will be a little not quite wide enough for an A2 card base. So for some of the cards, we're going to make adjustments. On one of the cards, we're going to make adjustments actually to these pieces here, these red and white polka dot pieces, to the actual pattern paper, and to others, we're going to make adjustments to the card base. All of this will fit a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card absolutely perfectly, no problem at all. And if you're an Australian, and I know a lot of you watching are American, but if you're Australian and you're looking for that size cardstock, I am getting Nina Solar White into the shop, and that will be stocked in full reams and in smaller packages. Now here is the one that we need to trim down. There just isn't enough space between these panels to make the card really look good. So I've lined them all up so they're even on the left hand side. I've trimmed off 1/8 of an inch. I'm flipping them all one turn, and then I'm going to line them up again and take off again 1/8 of an inch. And now that means when I lay these out on my card, there's going to be a little bit more breathing room around them. See how there's more of a pleasant border? And then I can just continue through on this next step where we apply adhesive to everything. I like to use the 3mm double-sided tape. It's economical. It goes a long way. Look, my husband bought me a cup of tea while I was doing this. Perfect way to do some card making. Then the next step, we're going to peel off the backing paper for the adhesive, and we're going to start putting all the pieces on. You see that gap at the bottom of the card? Don't worry about that. We're going to deal with that later. There are a couple of options. For this particular one, there's a small square, and I thought putting this stripe directly onto that very bold spot was just going to lose it. And so I started grabbing black pieces of leftover cardstock from other projects, and a few of these pieces of pattern paper will be matted. It just leaves that little black border. It helps everything stand out, and it's not going to get lost necessarily on the card that it's on. For this one, I took a fairly large size piece of black cardstock, and while I'm making sure it's even at one end, it's not even at the other, and we're going to trim the card base down so that you don't see that little white strip over on the left there. Two of these go fairly straight, and if you want to leave things straight, you can use a ruler to line them up, and I found this very, very helpful indeed. This could be a landscape card as I'm using it, or it could be a portrait card. It's completely up to you. I'm adding stamped and colored images to all of these cards, and so I chose what worked with the image that I was going to be using on the card. For this particular one, it's really helpful to lay them out first, know how much of a gap you want to leave. Stick your first one down and the rest will follow really, really easily. Well, polka dots actually look like they should just be dots. That's a one-way pattern, which is kind of weird. All right, so this one and the next one are the same. I did map both pieces with black cardstock, and it adds a little oomph. So you can do this for some of your cards. You can do this for all of your cards. It's completely up to you. I've kept these cards really quite clean and simple. That's my preferred method. And on this card, I chose not to matte with black, but it fills that entire card base. So you just go through, you're peeling off the backing paper, you're putting your pattern paper down. And when I tried this with the Kaisercraft paper pad, those pieces are actually 6.5 by 6.5. So I trimmed them all down to 6 by 6, and I had all these strips left over. So on the cards where the base was a little short, that I would normally trim it down for true 6 by 6, I just went and filled in the space with the leftover strips of pattern paper. It coordinated, it filled the space. It actually looked really, really good, and I highly recommend that. I will put some pictures of those cards on my blog as well. You can check that out in a link below. Now, if you're looking for the templates, you're thinking this looks fun, this looks easy, this is systematic, I could recreate this. Also linked below, you will find a link to where you can find this template. It's all about the treasure hunt today, isn't it? You will also, at the very top of this video description, locate your next stop on this hop. Now, you do know there are over 50 prizes. I'm sure you've heard that a lot already if you've been hopping along, but it's really good for me is if you let me know in the comments, if you want to leave a comment, you're in the draw for a prize. Are you in the USA, or like me, are you international? I love seeing where everyone is from, so let me know, where are you from? And I'm very excited to see who is going to be the prize winner. The 50 amazing prize winners on this blog hop today. All right, we're ready for the next step. Look at this. Look at all these fantastic decorated backgrounds. They're just begging for a sentiment and an image. But first, I'm going to chop off the pieces that just don't serve me. There's no rule that says I can't, and I'm not going to do it for each and every one. Only the ones where it's kind of really obvious. It's still going to fit into an envelope, a C6 envelope, no problems at all. So I just trimmed a few of them down. Now, the next thing I did this off camera. I stamped out my sentiments, and I stamped and colored my images. If you would love to see how I colored these, I do have a companion video. It is also linked in the description box below, and you can see all of the colors listed on my blog. Everything I'm using here is from our amazing sponsor, Lawn Fawn, from their brand new May 2019 release. And these were so fun to color. It's so simple, so quick, but really good to do en masse. So I decided to sort of choose which image is going to work well on this background. And I just played with them. I just figured out how many I would need. I've got a few left over, so I'll use them on the next batch of cards. I am determined to use up this entire paper pad because I've seen new ones. I want new ones, and I've had this one for so long. It's time for something new. And my rule is I've got limited space. I'm at capacity. And so I'm going to use this up before I buy a new one. Now, I've used some Nouveau morning dew drops on here, and I've just evened it out with a pin. Mine is quite thick, and it was just the easy thing to do. So I've done that for all the fish bubbles and for the candles and the sprinkles on the cupcake as well. Now, another thing is, if you're wondering how you can work in a small craft space like I do, I actually have a craft podcast. It's called the Craft Room Podcast. It's on Apple, on iTunes, it's on Spotify, it's on your favorite podcast app. And if you don't use a podcast app, you can actually listen to it over on the website. Just go to dawnlewis.com.au/podcast and you can see all of the podcasts I've been on. And I've got quite a few, and it's all about craft. So do come join me and we can talk about all fun crafty things, because I do talk a lot about how to make the most of your supplies, and it's one of my favorite things that I can share with you on the Crafty YouTuber blog hop as well, because you know, let's take this stuff, and I think that 11 cards out of 6 small sheets of paper is a pretty good deal. My box of birthday cards is well stocked. I'm very happy. And my storage space is starting to breathe again because I took a paper pad out. Now, you can place your embellishments and your images and your sentiments anywhere you want on these cards. Just because this is where I placed all the pieces of paper and the pretty things, that doesn't mean that you have to do the same as me. Use it the way you like it. Here you'll see all of the finished cards. You could add a lot more. You could add paper doilies and twine and ribbon and sequins and gems and all those fun things, but I just kept it clean and simple to show you the basic method of doing this today. I really hope you enjoyed this. I know it's been a long hop. Don't forget to leave a comment. You've got till the 5th of June to do so, to be in the running for one of those great prizes from these incredible sponsors. I hope you have found some fun new favorite crafty YouTubers today. If you have enjoyed this video and you would like to see more from me, please hit that subscribe button. I thank you in advance. I do hope that you have a very crafty day. Enjoy your hop, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.